And I think there's just going to be the 5 of us here tonight. We have 2 items on the agenda. We've got an update from Waste Management, and then we're going to hear from Boeing how the predictions are for economic future. So with that, if you'd like to go ahead and take it.
Great. Thanks, Randy. Good evening. My name is Linda Knight. I'm the Solid Waste Coordinator for the City of Renton. It's so good to be in front of you again. Over 3 years ago, you made a very bold decision to take Renton's solid waste collection program in a new direction. There were 3 main changes to this program that included the frequency of garbage and recycling, changing that from a weekly collection schedule to an every other week collection for our garbage and recycling. The addition of food waste to our organics collection program, and the addition of recycling collection for all of our commercial customers. For both 2009 and 2010, we were able to report back positive gains in waste reduction and recycling, and those results continue to pay off for the solid waste utility today. When we look solely at disposal costs and compare total garbage tonnage generated in 2008, that was pre-every other week collection, to total garbage tonnage generated in 2011, we find that your decision saved over $780,000 in avoided disposal costs. This is only one measurement of the program's success that has positively impacted our community. So, I think that's really good news.
Yeah.
We continue to witness how your decision has helped our city, its residents.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate, or maybe you will, on the 780,000?
Sure. So what we do is what we're talking about is avoided disposal costs.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll hear a little bit more in the presentation from Waste Management of how our total tonnage and garbage has gone down.
Okay.
And so that's for every ton of garbage that we send off to King County, we pay $109. So when you don't send those tons to King County's disposal facility, you save $109 for every ton.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it was a big number. It was like, ooh, that was good.
That's great.
We continue to witness how your decision has helped our city, its residents, and businesses to be aware of the waste we all produce and to take action and look for solutions for reducing waste delivered to Cedar Hills landfill, while also increasing the amount of recyclables and organics that are used as feedstocks to produce new materials. It's all good news. Tonight we have our partners at Waste Management to provide you with the details of the 2011 Solid Waste Annual Report. And I'll introduce them, and I think they're going to join us at the table. We have Greg Hale, Waste Management District Manager. You can come up to the... Oh, Katie and Matt? Okay. Katie Salinas, who's our Public Sector Manager, and then Matt Stern, who is the Area Recycling Director.
All right, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Well, hello, and thank you again for allowing us to present tonight. My name's Katie Salinas, and I manage municipal relations. I assist Greg Hale in the administration of our contract with the City of Renton. Let's see here. Tonight, each of you has received a copy of Waste Management's 2011 annual report. This report provides information regarding the materials we collect within the City of Renton, including Renton-specific waste diversion numbers, information concerning recent public education and outreach efforts, a brief summary of the recycling and reuse events that Waste Management supports as part of our collection contract with the city, and in addition to tonight's overview of the annual report, I've also invited my colleague Matt Stern, our Director of Recycling for the Pacific Northwest, to give an update on our transformation efforts as a company to transform from a company that manages waste to one that manages resources. 2011 was a fantastic year for the City of Renton's residential recycling rate. To give you a sense of recycling improvements that have occurred in the residential sector, I compared 2008 and 2011 recycling tons collected from all residential customers. As you can see, tons recycled increased by 1,009 tons year over year comparison. That's about 23%. residential yard and food waste also saw a lot of success during this time period. From 2008 versus 2011, we saw an increase of 2,448 tons, or about 32%. Households across King County produce food scraps and food soiled paper every week, and many still put this valuable resource in the garbage. In fact, more than 27% of the garbage produced in King County sent to the King County landfill is actually compostable food waste and food soiled paper. So the statistics seen here in the city of Renton are really impressive. I think it speaks to the education and outreach efforts conducted by both King County, the city of Renton, and Waste Management. Now, here's a very impressive statistic. This is really exciting. The city of Renton has seen significant population growth between 2008 and 2011, nearly 17%. However, although the population has increased, garbage has actually declined during this time period due to increases in the participation of recycling and composting, and also general waste reduction. So people are perhaps more aware of their habits. They're buying products that are in less packaging, etc. So in 2011, residents threw away 143 fewer tons compared to 2008. To give you a sense of how much garbage that is, I've calculated a more visual comparison. Cutting 143 tons of garbage is equivalent to about 20 truckloads of waste. So when you really think about what that looks like, it's pretty commendable.
Mm-hmm.
I would also like to mention the success of Renton's 2 recycling events, as they are big contributors to the city's overall collection of difficult to recycle material. The spring and fall recycling events are planned and facilitated by the city's solid waste staff, and WM partners with staff to provide collection support. Some of the materials accepted at these events include broken concrete, scrap metals, bulky yard waste, clean wood, motor oil, antifreeze. So these are things that are typically not accepted through the curbside program. And if not collected through a special recycling event like this, these types of materials would often require residents to take a special trip to the transfer station, which of course is costly, and the recycling options are fewer. Both the spring and fall recycling days were well attended, and in total more than 133 tons were collected between those 2 events in 2011. Here's some really great photos from the spring and fall recycling events. On the left, you can see a load of scrap metal being placed into a container, and the photo on the right shows, bulky yard waste. These are things, again, that residents just could not recycle at the curb, so this is a really useful event. Another well-attended event is the Stop and Swap event, which the 2012 Stop and Swap is coming up on June 22nd. June 2nd. It's a one-day reuse event that provides an opportunity for residents to drop off and pick up reusable items. Residents are encouraged to participate whether or not they have anything to necessarily drop off. So if you're just looking for maybe some salvaged building materials, that's a great opportunity to go and find those items. Some common items that are dropped off include gardening and landscaping tools, furniture, barbecues, building materials, etc. You can see in this photo residents getting ready to start swapping. And also the salvageable building materials are really a hot commodity right now among do-it-yourselfers. There's everything from cabinetry to window coverings, etc. As Linda mentioned, the new contract with Waste Management that started in 2009 also includes commercial recycling at no additional cost for commercial customers. Since from comparing 2008 commercial recycling tons to 2011, we're currently recycling in the commercial sector 595 more tons in 2011 than we were in 2008. That's a 23% increase, which is quite significant. In 2011, Waste Management's recycling and education outreach team really focused their outreach efforts on customers in the commercial sector that were identified as having a large opportunity to increase their recycling. So they currently had no or very limited recycling programs at their business. 250 of these businesses were contacted by phone or mail, and then 70 of them agreed to on-site visits. So our staff actually came out and provided education and training. And out of those 70, 40 of those businesses signed up for recycling for the very first time. So they were completely new to the program. So the more strategic outreach efforts to those businesses that truly need the on-site hand-holding assistance has been very successful. I'd also like to mention that we've recently translated all of our recycling guidelines into a number of different languages. We recognize how important it is to provide recycling guidelines that are clear and easy to use for all residents. (2011) also marked the end of diesel recycling, garbage, and yard waste vehicles in the city of Renton. We now collect all of our customers using compressed natural gas trucks. We have an entirely new fleet of these vehicles, and they're much cleaner than the diesel fleet that they replaced. They produce nearly zero air particulates and 23% fewer greenhouse gases. Anecdotally, they're also much quieter than their diesel predecessors, which is well appreciated by our customers as well as the men and women who operate the vehicles. Residents were notified of their new collection fleet with a postcard that was delivered to every home. The postcard also emphasized proper set-out guidelines. The new fleet is what we refer to as fully automated, which means carts are collected using an automated arm. So it's very important that residents place their carts at the curb with the lid opening facing the street and spaced about 2 feet apart. The primary benefit of automated collection vehicles is that it truly reduces the amount of time that we spend in your neighborhoods. I'd now like to introduce my colleague, Matt Stern. He, like I said, has a wealth of knowledge concerning waste management sustainability efforts, and he is here to talk to you tonight about some of the more exciting and really transformative initiatives we have underway.
Thank you. My name's Matt Stern. I'm the area director for waste management, and among other things, I oversee the physical facilities that recycle in the Northwest, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Vancouver, BC, and Alaska. And part of my job is also to handle transformation. Waste management is the nation's largest recycler. We're the nation's largest creator of green energy from trash. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. The solid waste industry is a very, very large industry with a lot of different components. And a few years ago, Waste Management decided to transform the industry, try to take the obstacles that have been in the industry for decades and find some solutions. And to that end, we've invested in dozens of different companies that are experimenting with new technologies, gasification, digestion, pyrolysis. I'm probably missing some general ones, but what these companies have done is taken the next step to try to extract more value from the waste stream. So you can see from that chart, it basically shows a hierarchy of value in the waste stream, and At the top, you can see there's chemicals, and at the bottom, more fundamental composting. And in between, there's a whole range of technology and new ability to extract value from the waste stream. And part of why Waste Management is doing this is because basically the industry has three components: the collection component, the processing component, and the market. For decades, the market component has always been a struggle. So I'm sure even in all your daily lives, you've always wondered why certain materials could be recycled and why certain materials couldn't be recycled. We're trying to jump out ahead of that and create markets for materials that never existed before. And one of those markets, and we'll just skip for time, is a company that we invested in. You can hand these over to the is a company out of Oregon called Agilix. You can see on the screen, and it's a group of engineers who figured out a way to make crude oil from virtually anything made of plastic. And it's a very interesting, revolutionary technology. And Councilmember Taylor, he's a big fan of the Agilix, I know.
I can do this if you want me to.
Yeah, he
can
was
do the whole
just telling me what he learned on the tour, actually.
It's very exciting. I mean, in the United States right now, only 10% of all the plastic products we produce are able to be recycled in traditional markets. So there's an enormous need for a market that will provide an opportunity to extract value from that other 90%. So these folks at Agilix down south of Portland created a technology where they can take plastic and convert it into crude oil. You can see the sample looks like peanut butter. That's actually what crude oil looks like at room temperature. The chipped plastic is the multicolored chip. No, the other one is, that's just a sample of lots of different rigid plastic, film plastic, foams, just as a sample. And then the other sample you have is plastic bags that have been densified. It's another piece of equipment that we're looking at to help in the process.
Matt, if I could just add, the crude oil that you're able to produce from recycling those plastic bags, as I recall, is a more pure grade than...
That's right. Yeah, so a crude that comes out of the ground has all kinds of impurities from the earth, things that aren't crude, that do not make a combustion fuel or crude oil. When that plastic is refined again, all those impurities have been refined once. So you're dealing from a production point of view, you're dealing with a much cleaner product. So the crude that we make in this process is much more pure than the crude that comes out of the ground. The facility we're building in Oregon, we broke ground a few months ago. It will produce 3.5 million gallons of crude oil from plastic sourced locally each year. And then that crude oil will be actually shipped from Portland to Tacoma to the refinery in Tacoma. So we're basically making crude oil the same or better crude than we get out of the ground, and we're doing it locally, and we're solving a problem in terms of finding a market for these difficult to recycle plastics.
Yeah, impressive.
This market for plastics won't necessarily replace the existing markets. The existing markets for milk jugs and water bottles, the typical plastics that everyone's familiar with, they'll likely still go to those markets. This technology will be able to recycle plastics that are more contaminated. You can imagine a bucket that's contaminated with paint or tar or concrete. It can have the metal handle on it. So it really broadens the ability. The same equipment can recycle film plastic, plastic bags, styrofoam, rigid plastics. And it doesn't have to be plastics that you're typically associating with your, what you buy as a homeowner. This plastic, it can do car bumpers and plastics from the housing on your computers. Virtually anything made of plastic will produce a certain amount of crude. So it's a really exciting technology, and actually it's just one of 4 technologies that we're incubating in the Northwest. We have our what we call our Agilix project. We have our S4 project. Oh, well, these are going to be other, but I can get to those eventually too. S4 is what we call plasma gasification. All these would take the whole night to talk about, so I'll just try to run through them. But plasma gasification is a technology that takes a 10,000 degree torch, basically, and raw garbage goes through it, and it's vaporized into gas, and the system collects the gas. And once you have a gas, you can really do anything with it. You can create liquid fuel, you can generate energy. And so that's a very exciting technology that's already being tested out at our landfill in Oregon. We had the slide of digestion. We have a partner, Harvest Power, up in Vancouver, BC, that's creating power from food waste in Fraser, BC. So there's not just one, you can see by all these different technologies, there's not just going to be one solution. There's going to be a whole range of solutions. And waste management has the desire and the power to really transform the industry. And to the board of directors' credit, they've really embraced this move. And like I said, over the last couple years, we've invested in dozens of small startups, some small, some medium-sized startup companies that have a transformative idea, but they just need the partnership that waste management can provide. Locally, in 2011, we made a lot of changes, not only in the Seattle area, but throughout the Northwest. The first one on the list there is our main single-stream recycling facility in Woodinville. We upgraded it with new technology. There's a technology called optical sorting technology. It's a big digital camera system. The material passes through, the camera system can identify it, and then when it gets to the end of the system, air blasts the material and sorts it just by itself. It's a very interesting technology. Glacier, our C&D processing facility in Auburn, we purchased in 2010, and in 2011 we invested and installed new sorting equipment for construction and demolition material. We opened a medical waste facility at our South Seattle facility, and that is moving along nicely. We're building a new state-of-the-art single-stream facility in Spokane. It'll be up and running in October of 2012. And then late last year, we purchased JMK Fibers, and we're attempting to expand the equipment technology at that facility also. So, I guess in conclusion, we're putting our money where our mouth is, I suppose, on on recycling technology. It's over the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to be really exciting to see how much impact we can make with these technologies.
Well, very impressive. I hadn't realized the industry was changing so fast.
Oh, it's faster than we can keep up.
Sounds like waste management's doing a lot.
I have a question.
Questions, yeah?
This is something I think about when I'm throwing out my garbage, waste. If I put soiled paper or something, it gets in the recycle instead of into the yard waste, and then it goes to your facility. Do you collect that and then send it to recycle, or is it just...
If you put, whatever you put in your recycling container goes to a processing facility, and so if you're talking about, like a soiled pizza box or something like that, chances are that pizza box is going to make it through the sort system in with the rest of the cardboard and then go to a mill that takes that cardboard, and they actually make the wavy middle liner of new cardboard boxes. The problem with any kind of contamination is it just lowers the quality of that recycling process. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's the end of the world, but it's not the preferred.
It'd be better to send it to the...
Yeah, so now,
compost.
and the flip side, if you take that soiled paper and send it to the yard debris facility, it will go to make compost, and it'll be it'll actually, the cellulose in the paper will end up as cellulose in the compost.
Good. I think we should get a bag of compost like Seattle does. That was part of their
Oh,
agreement.
part of their presentation?
Well, I read that when I think, wasn't it Seattle that has waste management? And every customer got a bag
It's a
of
bag
compost.
of compost?
Is that just
Oh, wow.
an urban myth, or is that?
I think sometimes during special compost events, there are good incentives to sign up for yard
Love
waste.
Cedar River, or Cedar Grove.
Cedar Grove, yeah.
compost.
The end product is really great, just to kind of make that connection. All of the yard and food waste that we collect in the city of Renton goes to Cedar Grove Composting at their Maple Valley facility, and then that compost, that end product, is actually available in the store for purchase.
Nice stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, if I may, I really like that product too. And I almost hate to ask because I'm so impressed by all these things, but I know that we sometimes get complaints about odors from that facility, and you're obviously very familiar with technology. I was wondering if you can tell us, has there been efforts to control that?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Composting facilities, the odor at compost facilities obviously is the uncontrolled decomposition of that material. So the technology that's generally used in the Northwest tries to get that material through the process as quickly as they can, and then it loses that sulfur smell, and you get just the rich, earthy compost smell. The new technology in terms of handling composting and food waste, at least for waste management, is digestion. We would take the food waste, the most nitrogen-rich component of the organic stream, and extract the gas, the methane, out of it and generate energy from it. That process also has the benefit, once that gas is extracted, the odor issues are limited. Waste Management's experimenting with some other technologies. We have a facility in San Diego that's taking food waste and they're putting it through a slurry process where they make, for lack of a better term, a jet fuel or a additive that goes to the wastewater treatment plants, boosts the methane at those facilities so they can generate more power. So it's a sort of a lab tested recipe that uses food waste slurry as a boosting agent for methane power.
Would some of that require that that homeowners separate yard waste from food waste?
Typically, that facility in particular uses commercial food waste, restaurants, and so they're able to get a concentrated amount of it. But the reason that food waste and yard waste are mixed is just for convenience for the homeowner. But I would imagine that at some point we'll have the ability to take that material from the homeowner and sort of separate it into its component parts and get the most value out of it. That's
It's separated at the source. I mean, it's coming from different places in the house, so it seems like.
yeah, that's right.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
It's I had a fantastic tour of the facility. As you can see, I'm still a little excited right here about what I was able to learn. I was taken by Lise and also Linda McKnight, and the best part, the Cascade Recycling facility was very impressive. We toured the entire facility. We just went down the assembly line and just watched all of the recycling materials, the food waste, and everything come through, and we saw how it would get processed, or not the food waste, but the recycling materials. But Matt does a superb job of helping you to really understand the state of the art technological developments that are being made by Waste Management that are just, I mean, these are just, we're looking at the future. I'm thinking 5 years ago, here in Renton, we would just take garbage. We had a whole different definition of what garbage was. No value. We would just put anything inside of our garbage bins. And now we've come through the process of being trained how to separate, how to recycle, and to further learn how you are taking that garbage, that waste, that food waste, and making energy products out of it. And I think that one of the upstream goals is to create a zero waste kind of a model where your waste, really, you don't have any, because everything that you're putting out there is going to be reused somehow, some way. It's going to be a reused item. The other thing that I was very happy with is that I could see high school students being very interested in this kind of thing. And you had mentioned that you also provide tours and you create the kind of outreach that engages high school students so that they can understand. There's a lot of science application here. And of course, if you're continuing down this path, that's going to open up a very large opportunity for economic development and new jobs, creating more green, sustainable energy options throughout our region, throughout the country. So thank you for doing that.
Sure. Yeah, the Agilix facility in Portland will create, I think, almost 40 green energy jobs where there was none. It's pretty incredible what opportunities are out there.
Other questions or comments? I think we've covered a lot of ground. I did want to say that I'm also very impressed with how much our waste stream is getting recycled, and appreciate the partnership with Waste Management. I appreciate what our own staff has done to bring that about. And I appreciate what the citizens of Renton have done. There's been a lot of adjustment, and I live in a large household, and I can tell you that we spent a lot of time adjusting, and I had the advantage of getting all the information sitting right here. But we ended up we made a breakthrough when we realized that our 20-gallon kitchen trash can, we needed to repurpose it entirely and make it entirely compostable waste, and only separate out the very few items that really can't be composted in the kitchen. And then likewise, all the trash can in the office changed from being a traditional trash can to just being pure recycling and things like that. And once we got it all square, we ended up with a fairly small amount that actually goes in that green landfill. So, but it just takes time. And I think probably this city's still adjusting. And I see all over the place, even when I look in the back of the room, I think we've got labels on the cans back there that aren't exactly the way we break it down now, and I see that in businesses and stuff. Everybody's still adjusting, but it's getting better. So
yeah, some of this technology is gonna jump out ahead of people. That's what we're seeing. Also, we're seeing the facility in Auburn, our Glacier facility. We put in equipment that'll sort. No one's doing any separating of it. It's all mixed together, and we're sorting it out for them. Now it's wood, metal, cardboard, that kind of stuff, but I think the technology will get to a point where there will be value in the entire waste stream. Waste management, they're doing so many interesting things. We have a partnership with Walmart where we're working with them to try to downsize packaging. So go right to the source and try to shrink the packaging. I like to tell a story about what do you think one of the most purchased items at Walmart is? This would be a trivia question.
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper. That's a good one. Good guess.
I give up.
It's Hamburger Helper. It's the macaroni and the seasoning in the box. So Walmart went to General Mills or Kraft or whoever makes it and says, your boxes are too big, you have to downsize your packaging. And so they went back and looked at what they were putting in the box, and they have those little elbow macaroni in there. And they figured out they could straighten the macaroni by a couple degrees, and the macaroni would nest smaller in the box, and then they could shrink the box. And so these kinds of partnerships and innovative ideas are changing the way we look at trash.
Great.
One last question.
Oh, certainly. Please.
Are you
Marcia.
working with the schools?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because I'm in the schools, and I noticed that lunchroom, that everything goes in the garbage.
So lunch
The
is
water bottles,
Yeah.
the Gatorade bottles, everything.
Yeah, schools definitely present some unique kind of obstacles
Sure.
when it comes to recycling. However, our education outreach staff are absolutely available to spend time in the schools and assist them with developing better recycling programs.
Right.
So we're happy to do
I
that.
noticed the high school kids are very conscious about looking for a recycle place to put their things, but not so much in the elementary. They just dump it.
Good. Thanks, Marcy. Any other questions?
Great.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Sure.
Appreciate the update. All right. So we'll move on to the second item.
They're down there.
down here. Second item on our agenda, we have a very special presentation today from the Boeing Commercial Airplanes. It's our current market outlook and strategy. And I guess Drew McGill here, commercial. Jesse?
I'll start it off.
Okay. Suzanne Dale Esty will kick us off.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. Suzanne Dale Esty, and I'm the Economic Development Director here at the city. As you all know, Renton has a very strong aerospace sector, and growing this sector is a very high priority in the city's business plan. Renton has supported the Boeing Company's incredible history of innovation and excellence for over 70 years, and we are honored to be the home of the world's best-selling commercial airplane. We can't say that enough. We also have multiple aerospace suppliers, the regional headquarters of the Federal Aviation Administration, and one of the only municipally owned airports with a seaplane base in the nation. And of course, businesses from throughout the community, from restaurants to auto dealers, benefit from these important aerospace jobs. As you all know, Boeing is currently undertaking a dramatic production rate increase for its 737 NG plane, and they are now producing 35 planes a month, are moving toward 38 planes a month, and then 42 planes per month, and perhaps beyond that. Which is really, really exciting. This, what we call the rate readiness effort, requires multiple permits, communications, and we actually just had a monthly meeting today with the Boeing Company, and it's really a daily coordination effort that we're undertaking, and our goal is to surpass the company's expectations, and I think so far we're doing pretty well. We're using the context of Boeing's current ramp up to capitalize on this momentum and to try to increase our aerospace sector through both retention efforts and recruitment efforts. We're also working with Boeing, the King County Aerospace Alliance, the Washington Aerospace Partnership, and many, many others on advocacy for projects such as the extension of Metro's Rapid Ride F line up to Boeing's plant and the landing, capacity increases on 405, and needs at the Renton Municipal Airport. We are also supporting and are really proud of the exciting progress taking place at Renton Technical College in their local training efforts. And most recently, we received $2.5 million in state capital dollars to build a Renton Aerospace Training Center at our airport. Tonight, we're excited to hear about all of this and beyond from a global context. From two important players at the Boeing Company, Jesse Uman, who is Boeing's Manager of State and Local Government Operations, and Drew McGill, who is Director of Market Strategy for Boeing Commercial Airplanes. I wanted to take this quick moment to mention how much I appreciate Jesse's partnership with the city. It's really a day-to-day effort to make sure that we're on the same page and moving forward on a number of priorities, and it's just been terrific, and we're very, very grateful. So without further ado, please welcome our speakers from the Boeing Company.
All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Sure. Thank you very much, Council, and Suzanne, thank you very much as well. I just keep those 11 p.m. emails coming. No, she does great work for you guys, and she's a great point of contact for the Boeing Company as well. Council, again, thank you for having us here today. I just wanted to sort of set the stage and talk a little bit about some of the accomplishments that have happened recently from across the Boeing Company, especially in 2011 was a pretty historic year for the company. I don't know if you guys remember this, but in 2011 we actually won the United States Air Force tanker contract. That meant 11,000 jobs stayed here in the state and kept the 767 line open. The city of Renton was actually an active participant in lobbying and to try and keep the tanker here, and we thank you guys for that partnership. Also, last year and just recently this year, we delivered two brand new airplanes, actually three. The 787, the 747-F, the freighter version, and the 747-I, the intercontinental. And these are amazing airplanes. The 787 is what we call a game changer due to the composite technology on it, and our customers want them as fast as we can produce them, just like the 737. Also, last year was a great year for sales at the Boeing Company. We ended last year with a record backlog of 3,700 airplanes to be built. The value of that backlog is $296 billion. a great opportunity, but also a great challenge to deliver on those customer commitments that we've made. Also, across the state, last year, Boeing hired 9,000 employees, and now our state workforce is over 82,000. It is a great time in the aerospace industry, but a lot of challenges around workforce issues, and appreciate the partnership with Renton Technical and all the different community and technical colleges across the state. It was also fitting that in 2011, Boeing celebrated its 70th anniversary here in Renton. And there was two very historic milestones directly impacting Renton. One was the new 4-year labor agreement with the IAM, and the decision to build the 737 MAX here, all on the 70th anniversary. The 737 program is very, very busy. I think that's just the best way to describe it. But to put sort of the 737 program in context, if you look out today, more than a quarter of the total worldwide fleet of large commercial jets are the 737s. More than 5,550 of them are in service today at 358 airlines in 114 countries. So the little plant down here in your city is has a very, very global reach. I appreciate that, and that's something what Drew is going to really talk about today, or once again, the challenges and opportunities that we face. So again, thank you for all your work and the city's dedication to the aerospace industry and working with the Boeing Company. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Drew McGill, who's our BCA Director of Marketing, to talk about some of those challenges and opportunities facing the company.
All right, welcome.
Hey, thanks you guys. It's a pleasure to talk to you. As Jesse mentioned, these are good and challenging times. One other thing I would add to what Jesse said is that little factory, and we call it a little one because if you go up to Everett, big, that's where most people do the tours, but there's a ton of airplanes coming out of here. Very efficient, but if you look at all the jets that have ever been produced, commercial jets, 45% of them came from right here in Renton. So going all the way back to the 707. So this is really the home of commercial jets worldwide. These are good times from the standpoint of things are really picking up. We've been selling our products. They've been received really well in the industry. But as you guys know, like the weather here, we will face challenges in the future, and it's prudent for us to be prepared for those. So what I want to do today, and really I'm here for you for any questions that you have, is take you through where we see the industry going. It's a growth industry over the next 20 years, how we're positioned, and some of the competition that'll be coming out, and then our strategy to deal with that competition. So it's really more of sharing. So again, please stop me at any time if you have any questions. I think what I want to do is just start off with our backlog here. And Jesse mentioned it, and this is something we're adding to almost on a daily basis. And so we're actually up to about 4,000 airplanes in our backlog. This is a record backlog for us, which is really pretty incredible if you think about what's happened. We had the Great Recession in 2008, and we've continued to see strong demand for airplanes. Airplanes are just a key part of the way that people live today. They're a key part of the economy, and so that's why we're continuing to see the demand grow. And as I'll show you, much of the demand is coming from overseas, but also there's demand here in the U.S. and in Europe, more mature markets, for replacement airplanes. So as higher fuel prices are out there, our new airplanes are much more fuel efficient. What you can see from this chart is the makeup of the backlog, and you can see that 75% of the backlog is for 37s and 777s. Those are the airplanes that we're really producing today. Actually, almost 90% of our deliveries right now are for 37s and 777s. So those are key products for us right now and well into the future. I mentioned that the long-term outlook is strong. It's a growing industry. Air travel is a growth industry in the sense that it grows faster than the economy worldwide. We are in an industry that's growing on average about 5% per year. So if you compound that out, that's an industry that doubles about every 15 years. There's some ups and downs, of course, with that, but on average it's about 5% per year. So that's one of the reasons why our backlog is so big. And this chart shows the backlog broken down by dollars. We're up to $308 billion now. And the significant thing here is the size of the backlog, because this is largest that we've ever had. It's about 5 times our current revenues for BCA, but also the makeup of the backlog. And what you can see here is it's very well balanced across different regions around the world. If we were to take a snapshot back in 2000, 2001, this would be about 40% North American carriers. And as you can see, it's become much more distributed around the world. And this is good for us because as markets go up in some places, they go down in other places, kind of balance each other out. So geographical spread is very significant here. Okay, so that's our backlog. As Jesse mentioned, we increased employment last year. We've increased employment a little bit this year as well. We're really, at this point, in kind of a stable mode. We have added about 1,300 jobs to BCA just this year, in addition to what Jesse mentioned for last year. Boeing employs about 172,000 people in 50 states, 70 countries. We're split about 50-50 between defense and commercial, although it's going to move a little bit more towards 60-40 commercial over the next couple of years. Our Washington State employment, you can see up there, almost 83,000. This is, of course, the biggest state for Boeing in terms of employment. The next closest one is California at 20,000, so you can see by far Washington State is the biggest employment center for Boeing worldwide. So Jesse mentioned also 777. I'm going to talk mostly about Renton products because I know you guys are interested in that. We delivered our 1,000th 777. And last year was just a phenomenal year for the 777. We sold 200. Now, you know that airplane's been around for a while, but we actually sold more last year than any prior year, which is really pretty amazing because our main competitor, Airbus, is targeting that airplane with everything they have with the A350, and we're continuing to sell that airplane. So we're doing well there. I do want to mention, too, we have 3 factories, main factories, Everett, Renton, and now Charleston. Charleston produced our first 787 and it rolled out. Those production numbers, of course, will be fairly small compared to what we're producing here, but that's also going very, very, very well. Renton is producing about 70% of our jets right now, Everett about 30%, and we are going to be moving production up. You've probably heard us say this over the next few years. Total production at Boeing will increase about 40%. From where it was in 2010. One of the interesting things is that by the end of 2013, we'll produce more 737s than we did all of our airplanes in 2010. So I know I'm throwing a bunch of stats at you, but the main message, I think you probably got it, is we are going up in rate. It's very, very important. When we have this backlog, it's very important for us to be competitive, to be able to have delivery positions for our airplanes. And so if we could produce more, we could certainly sell more today. So that's one of the key things that I'll get into. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, I'll move to the long-term market, which is right here. I mentioned that this is a commercial aircraft industry is a growth market. Air travel is growing about 5% per year on GDP of about 3%. There's a lot that goes on with this, but much of the growth is coming from overseas. And this chart, I think, is an excellent chart because it really puts things into perspective. You can see the 2010 traffic in blue. And within North America, actually, in 2010, Asia Pacific overcame North America as the largest market. So travel within Asia Pacific. But if you look at those orange bars, you can see the growth over the next 20 years. It's just phenomenal how much growth is going to be in Asia Pacific. And this is being driven by economic growth. It's also being driven by GDP per capita going up. And those economies, they're growing with air travel, with safe, reliable, convenient air travel. So it's a very key part of the growth for Asia Pacific. Just China alone, China is in the Asia Pacific numbers, but if you go down to the fourth category down, you see within China, China is going to grow in the next 20 years, they're going to add the equivalent of the entire U.S. air traffic over the next 20 years. So this helps us see where the growth is. There isn't nearly as much growth within North America, where we all live and breathe every day. So only at about 2%, 2.3% per year, that's growth. But the big challenge for the U.S. carriers is to replace the airplanes that they have with much more fuel-efficient airplanes. So in those markets, Europe and North America, you'll see more of our demand be for replacement. And for Asia Pacific and some of the developing economies, it'll be more for growth. That's, again, good. It's diverse, growth versus replacement, different regions, and that gives us more confidence in the demand for airplanes going forward. So the demand will be for about 33,000 airplanes. 33,500 airplanes needed for the next 20 years. And again, that's broken down by replacing old airplanes, about 40% of that, and growth. If you do it by airplane size, this is very interesting because it helps explain why we're doing what we're doing with our product strategy. You can see that the small airplanes on the bottom, 30 to 90 seats, regional jets, we don't actually build a regional jet. That's a pretty small part of the market going forward, about 70 billion. But the two key parts of the market are the single aisle, where the 37 fits in, from 90 to 200 seats. 23,000 airplanes are going to be needed, worth $2 trillion over the next 20 years. And then the twin aisle, from 200 to 400 seats, that's where the 787 and the 777 are aimed. And that's about 43% of the total value of the market, or almost $2 trillion there. There is a market for 747. We've come out with the 747-8. We've delivered our first freighter as well as our first passenger 747-8. But it's a fairly small market, and it's mostly for replacement. So this kind of puts things into perspective in terms of where the demand is. Now, on top of that demand, you can see what we're doing from a product strategy standpoint. We've got our four key products now. Not shown on here is the 67, but it's right underneath the 787 there. You can see where the 37 is. We've got the four models to cover that range on the single aisle. Then we've got the 787 and the 777 covering the twin aisle market, and then the 747-8. So one of our key tenets has always been to cover the entire market, from about 100 seats all the way up to about 500 seats. And so that's what we've been able to accomplish with our current product strategy. And getting the 787 out there and the 747-8 are just really key to us. That's one of our key focus areas this year, and a key part of this strategy. And then, as we think in years beyond, we'll be focusing on how we're going to be competitive on the 37. Now, this is where we kind of are today. Now, you guys obviously know about Airbus. They're our main competitor. Very tough competitor, very fierce, very innovative, and they really push us hard. But going forward, we're going to see some additional competition. And this chart shows you on the far right, you can see that just on the single aisle, from 100 to 200 seats, today we split that market with Airbus about 50-50. Between the 737 and the A320. However, over the next 10 years, we expect to see additional competition. Now, not all of these competitors will make it, but we will definitely see some more competition. For example, Bombardier has the C series, which they are selling now to produce and deliver in this decade. Brazil produces the Embraer airplanes, which are very competitive, just below our product line, but they're also looking at expanding as well into our product area. And then you've got China and Russia, Japan, India. This is a very strategic industry, manufacturing sector. They're good jobs, they're high-tech jobs. They utilize engineers and high-tech stuff, and they're good for the economy. So that's why a lot of these other countries want to get into this. Airbus kind of showed everybody the way to compete with Boeing with government aid, and so that is what we'll expect to see going forward. So we are going to see more competition, and we are positioning ourselves for that. The 737NG we continue to add improvements to the 37NG. Here's one that if you fly in Alaska out of Seattle, you'll see they have a few airplanes now with our new interior on the 37. And we were just talking about this beforehand. This is a major improvement that we just rolled out on the airplane to improve the passenger experience. I flew from Boston to Seattle. You know, we have a mock-up of this in Tukwila, and we show passenger airlines this all the time. But when you fly in the real thing, it is the real deal. When you guys fly in this thing, it just feels bigger. It's just amazing. So our designers have done a phenomenal job, and the airplane can be completely full. I was sitting there, and people were thinking that they were on a 787, and I had to say, "Well, this is a 37. The 787's coming. Don't worry about it." But this is a 787 type interior, and so this is just one example of the types of improvements that the team is rolling out here in Renton. There are a number of improvements behind the scenes that the airlines really value from an efficiency standpoint, from a reliability standpoint, and an operating cost standpoint. Today's 37 that's coming off the line today is about 7% more fuel efficient than the first 37NG that we delivered in 1997. So continual improvement is a big part of the 737 program. And this has driven our competitor to take a major change on their product with putting new engines, and they're coming out with the A320neo. That'll be a competitive challenge for us, and we are responding with the 737 MAX. So just to give you some numbers here, here's the new 737 MAX, and you can see we've got the new advanced technology winglets. Basically what we're doing with the 737NG is we're putting the new engines on it, new technology engines, some aerodynamic improvements. We've come out with a new concept for the winglets, which is really cool, but actually is much more fuel efficient. So the previous winglets would give us about 3% fuel burn, and that's really important for airlines. This gives us an additional 1.5%, so almost 5% between an airplane that doesn't have winglets and one that has the new advanced technology winglets. What's important for us here is that the 737 MAX will be, well, let me back up a little bit. The 737NG, the airplanes we're producing today, are more fuel efficient than the A320, and they've come out with the Neo. So with our MAX, which we're targeting for 2017, that will be 13% more fuel efficient than the NG that's flying today, that we're delivering today. And remember, today's NG is 7% more fuel efficient than the first NG, so some significant changes. It will actually be 18% better than the current A320, and about 7% better than the A320neo. So this will enable us to maintain our competitive edge relative to what Airbus is coming out with the A320. This is going to hold our advantage well into the future. So that's our strategy on the single aisle. Again, our focus is this year is getting the 737s production up, as well as delivering 787s and 747-8s. And then longer term, we've got the team really focusing on the engineering that's needed for the 737 MAX, and then how we transition over from the NG to the MAX. So with that, I'm going to leave you with this beautiful picture. Because this really is phenomenal. This plant, with its small footprint, is producing a tremendous number of airplanes, and is really a model for us across the entire company in terms of lean manufacturing and how to produce large quantity of airplanes in a small amount of space very efficiently. So with that, are there any questions?
Council, questions, comments?
I had a tour of the airport today, and we need more parking down there for you. So
Yeah.
I know you're working on that, and it's just amazing to see what you guys do down there, and your new paint facility that we got a tour of. I was hoping I get my car in there. I mean, it's just to paint a whole plane in 3 days and have it look as beautiful as they do is just Just awesome. So what are you going to do where else are you going to be able to paint these to get that many planes done?
Well, yeah. So Jesse's your person for all these things and what we're trying to do here, but yeah, we've got a lot of things to work on, and that'll be one of them going forward.
I want to thank you very much for coming down. Actually, I don't know if we've ever had such a detailed presentation in this forum by Boeing, but it's wonderful. And as my colleagues all know, my day job, I work for the Boeing company, so it's with great pride that I hear all these statistics, and I love being part of this team. The community, I think the Renton community really embraces this industry. The employees of the Renton plant, I know, really enjoy being down here. I know they've enjoyed a lot of the changes we've made. They love having the shopping center nearby, and it's a great environment right on the lake and right on the river and right near shopping. And the number of airplanes we're able to pump out, and people are really revved to just keep speeding it up. So great times. Certainly really helped Renton get through this recession too, the way Boeing has managed the business. So thank you very much for
I love
coming
that
down
picture.
here. Yeah, it's
Of
a
course, we've
gorgeous
got it up in
picture.
front of
Yeah,
us.
and we're all looking at it. That's why we're looking at our monitors. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And with that, Committee of the Whole is adjourned. We'll reconvene in about 25 minutes for the council meeting.
Home office. So now all of my paper and junk mail gets recycled. I'm a total recycler. Happy, fulfilled, and gremlin free.